next thing I wanted to bring up really is focusing now on ADAP. And I wanted to open the discussion with acknowledging that there was a meeting held in this room, I believe, but it was in this hotel on October 1st. It was dubbed an ADAP forum, and what it was a meeting of the ADAP work group and selected invited guests. And Tom Liberty really convened this meeting as an opportunity to share sort of the challenges that the department was facing, to talk about sort of what were some of the program stresses which led to the wait lists and the funding crisis that we were experiencing now, and basically get comment and input. It's such a challenging time there that it would be very difficult for a group to say, we need to do this, this is a great idea. But it was a very important meeting in that comment was given on various scenarios. Different cost containment possibilities were discussed. Pros and cons were shared about each of the events. And I think that truly was what the meeting was about, to make sure that every sort of potential aspect of a change was explored and commented on. A number of you here at this meeting also were at the ADAP forum, and I thought what I might do is ask if anyone had a comment from their perspective about sort of what the meeting was about and some of the outcomes. Would anyone like to comment who's there?
Well, I think there were. I don't want to say that. I think the idea, and please know that there was an ethicist brought in from the University of Miami, and the gentleman from NASDAQ, who is basically the technical assistance person for ADAP programs. And the bottom line was that no matter what decisions were made, there was going to be an impact. And I think the one that was probably most clear that has been taken up is the reduction in the federal poverty level. And that's not an easy decision to make. And I think that there were also a lot of unknowns in terms of the future funding, and the emphasis is basically to try to get us through this fiscal year. When you look at the Part Bs of, as Karen mentioned, $1.2 million is probably 3 or 4 days worth of drugs, but it's 3 or 4 days worth of drugs that we won't be able to provide before. But regardless of what decisions are made, somebody is going to get hurt, and somebody is going to probably fall through the cracks. But there's also a responsibility on the part of the client that when we talk about disenrolling people, that if the person is adherent and if the person is picking up their medications on time, it's not an issue. But when you look at our utilization, and there was a whole deck of slides, and I think we went through probably 20 out of 100 that could have been shown. It was really, I don't think anybody left that meeting thinking, well, gee, we feel really good about this. We feel really good about some of the decisions that are going to have to be made. So that being said, I think, sort of, for me, this all started when we didn't get what we thought we would get in the grant beginning April 1st. And we were sort of counting on an increase based on, what we'd been told, what sort of the word on the street was, et cetera, et cetera. When that didn't pan out, then we had to, I think, be reactive rather than proactive. And unfortunately, once the snowball starts down the hill, it certainly only gathers steam. But that being said, that's all in the past. I think our focus now needs to be on trying to keep as many people in the program who are willing to do their part from a consumer standpoint. That if we're empowering consumers and communicating with consumers, it shouldn't be an issue. The thing that was interesting to me was one of the slides that was presented at that meeting, when the first notice came out, that we had about a 10% spike in the number of pickups when people were told, you know, if you don't pick up, you know, there's a chance that you will be disenrolled. So if the message is out there that, you know, if you're compliant, if you pick your medicines up on a regular basis, then there's not an issue with you being dropped from the program. You know, and I will say that, you know, while Vista, there are now 4 of the HIV drug companies that are participating in that, has stepped up to the plate in a big way, the pharmaceutical companies in general. And I will mention the other slide, that if you look at how much the pharmaceutical companies' participation has increased from what, 10 or so years ago when they first started doing it, the rebates that they're giving, you know, across the country to pharmacies and to ADAP programs across the country, it's gone from in the, you know, 80, 90 millions into the $2 billion total now. So to say that they haven't done their part, I think is sort of a fallacy. But, you know, I don't think anybody walked away thinking we've solved the problem, and it's going to continue to be a struggle. So.
Yeah, and we certainly have to acknowledge the pharmaceutical industry and their support for patient assistance programs and really stepping up during the crisis. I mean, I don't want to think about if that hadn't occurred. And I did want to acknowledge also that Dr. Viamonte Ross, our Surgeon General, spent half a day in that October 1 meeting, and she was very interested, and I just remember that she wanted information that she could take to the legislatures and the legislators to really convince them of this crisis and that action was needed now, immediately. And just her interest and passion was something that I remember very vividly from the meeting, and we were pleased that she was able to stay a full half day, and she has really kept ADAP and this issue, I think, in a very high visibility place. So just wanted to share that I think it's really being pursued and supported at the highest levels of the department.